If it's knowledge, humour, or a different perspective that you seek, look for the wisdom in the words that we speak. Words and wisdom. We'll let you decide.
Hello and welcome to Words and Wisdom with your hosts Mikey Markham
And Zak Purdy.
This is the podcast where we bring you some crazy stories, some toilet humour, some knowledge bombs which hopefully you can take away and use to become your greatest version and improve your life.
Hopefully, that's pretty much our aim at the minute, mate.
Yeah, that's the plan.
We've improved our lives slightly, and now we're trying to say, right, can we help other people on this mission?
Yeah, that's the thing, mate. That's the thing. We like likes and subscribers, so if you like us and subscribe to us, it makes us happy.
Mate, I've never seen you do that face before.
That's a one in a lifetime kind of thing. I might drop it in every now and again throughout the series.
Do. I need to see that more.
So today, Mikey, what are we talking about today?
We've got near-death experiences because last time we met, your story absolutely mesmerised me, inspired me, and I couldn't believe it. You really touched me in that story in many ways, man. I mean, there's not much going on under the table, but it was absolutely fascinating, man. I was in the whole way with you. I was like, as soon as you started going down that line, it was like, he didn't. He what? Did he? It's amazing to see somebody like you and where you've come from, and like I always say, that past story to the now story that I see, and I am really inspired by it. Knowing there was like something that really stuck with me was a parallel between us. Like we both had a near-death experience, and I was like, okay, is that something?
We had a lot in common with the stories, especially with us being brought up by our grandparents as well. So if you haven't already, go check episode 1 and 2. Number 1 is the beautiful Mikey Markham's story, backstory, and where he came from, and how he got to be where he is now. And then episode 2 is obviously my story. And there's bits and bobs in there about all kinds of things. So, Mikey, well, let's hear about your near-death experiences, because I know you've had more than one.
I've had a couple, yeah.
Living life on the edge.
Quite literally, of my seat. The first one that happened was in a car, and it's a really strange one, really, because it was such a good day. It was such an exciting day for me. Being a spoken word artist and poet, I was actually going to Birmingham to perform at a massive show that I was supporting one of my favourite artists, like of all time. His name's Polar Bear, and I don't even know how exactly I got that opportunity, but it was one of them that doesn't come around very often. I was just like, okay, yeah, of course I'll do that, and that was a week's notice. So I was driving to Birmingham on the motorway in busy rush hour at it would have been like 5 o'clock, and I was listening to music again from the radio, thinking of my lines, thinking of all this stuff that I was quite nervous, and then I was driving, and one of the B Dolan, so I blame him for this, one of these rappers, but one of his songs came on, and it was really weird. It was like, it wasn't a normal song. He kept like putting in like voices, and it's like because he is an experimental artist, hip hop artist. It's strange music. And
So
when
it came on the radio?
No, it was on my shuffle,
on
my shuffle playlist, and I didn't even know it was on there. I had no idea. I think I just got B Dolan's album, and that came on, and I was just looking around like. The whole energy felt weird, and maybe it is just because that song was in my head, and I was like, I need to get that off. But I also looked at the road, and I was like, I feel uncomfortable. And have you ever had that feeling while driving of uncomfort? Like you're just like, I could do that at any moment, or do that, and I'm in full control here. And it felt weird in my heart that something could happen at any moment. And as I was thinking that, and as I sort of looked down to maybe turn the channel, like be like, nah, I can't have that on, the car in front of me just slammed its brakes on. Absolutely, like, slammed it. I saw the red light and the brakes on. And I went that way, slammed my brakes on, went that way. I was in a Toyota Yaris. And then did that, and the car just flipped.
Wow.
It just
Do you remember it flipping? Do you remember?
Massive. And it was slow motion. Do you know when people say it happened in slow motion?
Yeah.
It 100% did.
Was you on your own in the car?
I was, yeah.
What was your thoughts as you're going through the air?
it was again do you know when body just goes into this is happening now? There was no fear.
Yeah.
There was no. I couldn't work it out. It was like everything stopped in time, and it really did. And I know I say some cliche things now, but it's because they exist for a reason. Do you know when stereotypes exist for a reason sometimes? It's like cliches do. And that everything stopped in time. And I was like, right, something different's happening now in my life. And
something new. Something new.
And I was upside down. And then the car landed on its head, like landed on its back then.
Yeah.
And I was upside down.
Wow.
And then it span. And that wasn't even a scary bit, because then that came next. And I was in the car, upside down, and I looked out the window. And it nearly brings me like a form of PTSD, because it was so severe. But this car was coming at me, and I just saw it like 50, 60 miles an hour, like about 10 foot away, maybe a bit more, maybe like 20 foot, I don't know. But it was just driving at me, and I just clenched to die. And I thought I'd succumb. I was like, this is it, this is it, this is it. And he just flicked my nose of the car. He just like, the car sort of just
I think
span
it's
again.
mad how during something that's happening so fast, you can think that quick.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm about to die. What we're going to do, we're going to clench up. Like, you've got everything like that happening within like a millisecond.
And it was, that millisecond was about a month of time.
So, as you saw the car coming towards you, did you feel any kind of experience or anything, like a near-death experience? Did you feel anything, or was it just, it was that, and it was it, and then it was over?
I maybe not had enough time to approach that, like any other thought other than, right, this is it. When I didn't die, or I thought I didn't die for a minute, everything went quiet, and then I was like, no, I need to get out of here now. Just grab the iPad and like make sure to get that. But then I got out of the car, and there was men like all gathered around me. They'd stopped as well, like to stop the traffic. They must have. Yeah. I don't know how they worked it, but they got on the motorway, stopped it all, looked at the car. It was upside down. But then that was the moment I thought I'd gone to heaven. Like I really did. I was like, I did die. This is it.
These are angels.
This is afterlife, and I couldn't get out of that, break away from that space. So I sat down on the side, and they're like, "We're going to call the ambulance. Make sure you don't go into shock." Like literally, like telling me this. Like,
already there. I'm already there.
And this guy was like, "You might start shaking. You might start hysterically laughing. Something might like telling me all these things that might happen." I was like, "Oh yeah, in a minute it probably will." But then that was the aftermath. Then I sort of come back more to reality. I felt myself. I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure I'm alive."
Not in that way, guys.
Yeah. And then I sat there, and I was just on this constant wonder of like, is this real? Is this not? I took a picture of the car.
How long did it take you to come out of that state? That like, is this afterlife, or was it like
Honestly,
seconds, minutes,
no,
hours?
about like days.
Really?
Literally days. I had to. I went again to my partner that I was seeing at the time, and like, strangely, like her dad had died from a car crash. So it was very hard, like ripe in their family.
Definitely.
And very
Hard for her
close
to
to the
take
heart. So she heard, and she was like then really worried and upset. So I went to her house, and I just sat on the bed and just like, I no point, I don't think I cried at any point or like got really over emotional. I just reflected, constantly reflecting, like, what is life, what is real, what is like, that could have been my moment. What have I achieved? What have I gained? Like, honestly, man.
So at this point, you was just doing spoken word. How far into your journey was you? Like a year or?
Yeah, about a year, man. Yeah, I'd say a year into it, and I did do a lot of writing on it. There's a piece in my book about it, and at the very end of it, all these things that I learnt from it, I write down, because when I went from her house, I then came home. Because again, when I was there, I couldn't get in touch with my mum and dad, who I really needed to speak to, because the ambulance wanted to talk to them. Loads of I've just wrote the car off. All these things were in my mind. Couldn't get through, so I did just take a picture, like an idiot. I was probably
You still got that
Swear.
picture? You think?
Oh yeah, I've got.
Maybe
Yeah.
it'd be worth trying to edit into the.
I'll put it in. That's a good idea. So I put it on social media. I didn't want to scare everyone, but I just went like, please, could somebody get in touch with my mum?
Yeah.
I've had a bit of a problem.
I've had a bit of an accident.
And then they got a picture, and I think that scared her more than it needed to.
Yeah.
But I needed to really alert somebody.
So from going through that experience, do you feel like it? Because a lot of people, I've been watching some videos on near-death experiences, and a lot of people say that it kind of fast-forwarded their journey a little bit, because obviously they've got this new way of thinking, and it's like you say, this thought that life is so fragile, and what have I achieved, and it kind of catapults you into
what a word.
Catapults you into kind of action. Do you feel like that happened then for you? Do you feel like from there, that moment, there was a huge pivot point, a huge change?
It's a really great way you worded that and put it, because it did. I was coasting a lot of the time. I was just sort of, I had that cool gig, but then I'd get back, me and the girlfriend would watch films all the time, eat fatty foods, and that's a nice escapism of life. But really, I thought, well, what sort of like name for myself have I left behind? I had at the point no material on YouTube really. I had no like sources of me anywhere, no imprints, and I just thought no book, anything like that. So I was like, I've not got anything to like leave. If it's like to people that thought of me in the past, like in the future, people that want to reflect about me. All I'll have is some pictures or a Facebook page to go to and go, oh, look at him.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mikey.
Yeah, he was having his time. So it did. It made me want to make things happen. It made me want to like put videos out that I'm proud of. It made me want to make a book, even if it wasn't a good book, even if it didn't.
What book's that? Plug it.
Yeah, the Life's Beautiful Game. but loads of ideas came in my head. Like, I've got to be active now. I've got to like. Even if it's not my best stuff, it's coming out. It's all just getting out there
definitely.
in the ether, and I'll learn from it. I'll grow from it, and hopefully, I won't die in the next like decade.
Well, that's the thing, mate. Is and I always I've got this saying that I would rather die on the journey to greatness. We'll call it greatness. I would rather die on the journey to greatness than get old and look back and think, shit, I gave up. That's scary, isn't it? Imagine being old and thinking, I could have had everything. Instead, I'm here smoking a pipe. With nothing. Yeah. And I've affected nobody.
I had this like great conversation yesterday with a friend who's in an amazing band, and he's just a genius artist, but he's had a kid recently, and he thought, when I had a kid, it was all just going to be my kids that I'm going to focus everything into, and which is good, like, but that's all my life's going to be and revolve. But then he said, no, I've had this epiphany, this moment where I'm like, I've got to like show this kid that I am a good person, I am an artist, that I am a creator. I want them to see that his dad is doing the best he can do, and he got loads of stuff out there. So he's like, Mikey, can we start creating stuff? Can I put stuff out? I was like, of course you can, let's do it. And he's working in this band where they're not working at that pace, but they're at all different stages of life. So he's got this moment where he's like, I need to get stuff out, I need to work on stuff.
Well, that's quite beautiful, because we've got two ends of the spectrum that really can motivate you into doing something. So you've got death, a near-death experience. It's like, whoa, shit, I need to do something. Like, I really need to do something. Or you've got birth, the creation of life, which is like, I need to now do something to help this new creation of life, and I want them to look up to me and say, wow, I want to do that, and I want to be that.
I think it's a great quote again. It's somebody just said, like, there's life and there's death, and everything in between is a dance. Yeah, but those moments...
That's the quote of the day.
And them moments really do bring us together, because they're the one thing we will all have in common always. Yeah. That you're reborn anew and afresh, and then there's death, but there's beauty in that because it brings life. And these sort of things ground us and make us go, well, what am I? What's my position in life? What's the point of life? All these questions you need to answer. And I suppose for me, what it really presented in that time was passion, and why I go and talk at schools or talk to friends or do whatever I do is promote passion, is because I had that feeling. Is it a very similar experience to what your story's so beautiful, but like I'd love to know like your next steps that you took from that journey as well, and like how it brought you about to where you are.
Well, if we just, because obviously episode 2, there's the whole thing on there. I go into depth on this. So just to recover that in case people haven't listened, is basically I smoked some legal high, it's called. I had a certain. I only had 2 drags, but I had a certain reaction to it, and everybody else was fine. Collapsed, and at this point, I think, shit, I'm dying. I had a pain in my head. Now I believe that the only thing, that brought me back is repentance. Like I believe that. Because they say in Christianity and religion, if you repent for your sins, you get given another chance. Whether that's like in life or whether that's you're about to die. And I think I was teetering on the edge. And God, let's call it God, he said, Rob, but well, basically he says, look what you've done, look what you've achieved. Like you say, and I was sat there thinking, I'm washing cars for a living. I'm with a girl I don't want to be with. I don't even show my family any love. Like who am I? I was a bully. I was a disgusting human being, and that all came to me. That came to me, and I was like, wow, that's all I am. That's all I am, mate. So I said sorry. I just said, look, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Every time you say it, man, it gives me the shivers. Every time you say it, I don't know why. It's so powerful, that moment. I
just said sorry, and as I said sorry, I accepted death. And as I accepted death, the pain disappears, and I get given this peace, this beautiful peace, mate. And I'm drifting away, and there's a bright light, and then I was given I felt like I was given the answers to life, or shown them, like, oh, this is what you could have won. Like a little game show or something. And then obviously my nan, who was not long passed away before that, she was angry at me, and she said, like, and I've spoke to somebody else who said the same thing. They had a near-death experience, and they said their grandparent was very angry at them. It was like, what are you doing? You're wasting your life. And that's when I felt the need to help people. I was dragged back down to earth and plopped back here, and it was like I felt like a turd for a second. I was like coming through the colon, and I'm back. And I was like, oh, fantastic. But like you had the experience of like after you was in like this. Wow, I'm so appreciative of everything. I was like, damn, I wish I was dead. Like I actually wish I did a take on me, because I was in such a position in life that I didn't want to be in. That I would rather have had that feeling of euphoria. And I've been doing some research on near-death experience and DMT. We've just been talking about DMT.
Yeah.
We've just been smoking DMT.
Could you imagine?
That'd be an interesting podcast, wouldn't it? 6 hours podcast with Zak and Mikey. Except we don't have names anymore.
Funnily enough, that as in your research, that only takes like 10 minutes though. It can take 10 minutes, and then you're back to absolute Zap Purdy. Okay. Yeah, but that's it can feel like decades.
Wow.
It's one of them.
But this is why DMT and death it's so closely related. There's been studies where they've given people, controlled doses of DMT, and they've said the exact same thing, or almost the exact same experience and feelings that somebody who has almost passed away or has passed away in a hospital but came back to life. And they said, well, this is what I experienced, and the two are like hand in hand. Well, the thing is when we die, or as we're dying, the brain releases like a flood of DMT into the body. DMT gets released into the body every day at small amounts. It's what controls dreams. They believe it's the seat of the soul. They believe it's like what causes us to be sentient beings, thoughtful, loving creatures, apparently in some of us. And but the brain floods DMT in the body when we're dying. I think personally, my theory on this is that, well, when we eat, our body has a built-in response to digest food to make us sleepy. Yeah. When we have sex, our body has a built-in response to ejaculate, to procreate. So when we die, does it not make sense that we have a built-in mechanism to help us deal with that a little bit better? And maybe, so the DMT makes us feel good, makes us feel ecstasy, makes us feel like we're going on to another dimension. Maybe there is no other dimension. Or maybe there is, I don't know, but maybe it's just the DMT saying like, this is, let's just relax, we're dying, it's okay, and then boom, that's it. So
I really love that. Like, I think what would be really fascinating is, say, a year's time or a month's time or whatever time, when you've experienced it, or if you ever do and try it and you've done it in a safe environment. And again, I'm very much a component of talking about real stories. When you put out content, you put out podcast, you're very like, oh, do I talk about drugs, because who could be watching it, like, where am I going, and X, Y, and Z. But if you don't say the real stories and who you are and
You
what
can't
you've
help
experienced, you really, exactly right, man. You can't help anyone on that
I
journey.
think just touching on that, the podcast you did with Martin Illingworth, he said something beautiful. He touched on something really appropriate to what you was just saying, is that you're nervous and we're like, oh God, but I think what it is because it's there for everybody to watch for a long time, and that's what you said. It's permanently there on online, so it's like, oh, it's there forever.
We were speaking with the local healers the other day, again about Black Lives Matter, X, Y, and Z, but afterwards, again, it was so emotional, and we all just I shouldn't say it, but we hugged it out.
Hey, this podcast is in the future.
Yeah.
This isn't during COVID
times.
times.
When this was. But it was so emotional, so together. But again, they were like, mate, we just sharing a platform, and then in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, 50 years' time, we don't know who's going to go back. What were they all doing in 2020?
You could save one person's life. You could save one person's life.
That's it, and it really...
but yeah, DMT, man.
So that's all I was saying was okay, so a bit of resource for people who are very interested in this and hopefully take this away. Netflix, and I hope everyone's got Netflix, but I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. There's a documentary out called Have a Good Trip. And again, it's not bias, it's not to scaremonger or anything like that. It's just playing out stories, anecdotes, facts, information, and you can do what you want with that then. But it's got Sting on it. It's got so many celebrities that are all talking about their trip experience, their experience with psychedelics, and it's something other. There's something other in psychedelics. There's places where they've legalized it all over the world, and they're using it to help save people's lives.
Yeah, well, people in tribes, shamans in tribes actually use, which is DMT again, ayahuasca plant and some other plant, and they mix it together, and they have a juice, and they have a whole ritual for it. It's not. There's two ways of taking. I think there's two ways of taking anything, like food, alcohol, psychedelics, and your recreational drugs. Is like you said earlier, I'm doing it to get absolutely fucked, or I'm doing it to experience a certain aspect of my mind, of life. And that's what the shamans do, is they help people to have an epiphany and to push them through and maybe understand something. We're not telling everybody to go out and start taking acid, mate. We're not saying that. We're not endorsing anything. We're just saying maybe look at the things and just read into it. You don't have to take it, but read into it. It's very interesting stuff.
What we're talking about now is near death.
Yes.
And in my honest opinion, near death is literally a psychedelic experience.
Yes.
It gives you the very similar answers, gives you a very similar view of life, and we are very much touching on the same harmony here. We're working out something that is what people experience in near death. When they choose to take a substance, they will go through very similar emotions. With what we're talking about with DMT, I've enjoyed my times. And again, it will, for me, grab you, and the resistance you've got, the thoughts you might have about it, the ideas you put across. We said this the other day. It's like describing honey to somebody and what honey tastes like. You can't do it. There's no way. Even after experiencing it, and all it is an experience, it feels more real than what this is. Yeah. It feels way more real. So there has to be something, like you said, God earlier.
Something different, something else
there's
out
something
there.
other, and I love science. I'm a man of science. I really respect what science does for people. But I watched maybe a Joe Rogan, and it was Russell Brand with Richard Dawkins, and you got two ends of the spectrum, and they're having a beautiful conversation. And then every time it gets to the other, or the psychedelic world, or the extra something, they can't comprehend it because they've not experienced it.
This is the thing. We can only put words to things that we know about. This is the thing with humans. We're very limited with words. Words can only... I mean, even if we say love, we've done a podcast on love, episode 3, I think it is, or 4, episode 4. Well, love is different for everybody, but it's the same word. It's the same 4 letters, but it's different for everybody. So, but we can't really explain that. And it's the same thing with this other dimension, or this reality that we can't explain, because we can't put words to it, because there is no words to it. But now science is delving into that. A lot of studies recently on that sort of stuff. Eventually we'll be able to put words into it, to the experience of psychedelics.
I suppose the great one I've seen recently is people that suffer with severe PTSD and using MDMA. And the power that's had, and the resources and statistics, and people coming back saying this is completely changed my life. I watched a great podcast on it the other day. There's just so much ethicity, but there's so much behind it that makes you go, well, nobody label anything off. Nobody label people bad, good, or anything. Just allow experiences to tell their tales, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think, because I've never tried psychedelics, and I would like to, microdose it to see what it makes, to see what it opens up for me. With in a controlled environment with some kind of either professional, can you say a professional?
Yeah.
Or some kind of expert
definitely.
on it, or some kind of like you said, open-minded being. But and then we should definitely do a podcast on something like that. But back to near death
podcast. You're watching that YouTube.
The Netflix.
Have a good trip.
Have a good trip.
Definitely.
I'll watch that. Back to near death. I've got one question for you, right? So, as we're passing away, they believe that what you think about, where you believe you're going, is where you go, because I think that's your last thought, and it shuts down on that. It's like shutting a computer down on a screensaver of Mikey's face. It's going to be Mikey's face forever. So, where do you want to go upon passing away, upon leaving this earth? Where would your ideal heaven be?
Again, I love what you said earlier. Like you don't have to think about breathing or existing. Your body knows how to do it. So when it releases DMT when you die, and my sister's had a death experience. She had blood clots last year, and literally was on a ventilator, on a bed. She's a news story. She's in the Sun newspaper because she was doing loads of marathons. And then again, a very like-minded sister, but absolute anti-drugs, absolute. But when she died, when she was on this bed, she come back to me and said, I had a really weird experience. They were on all the drugs then. They put her on everything. They're
she'd
just
actually
trying to keep her alive. She died. Yeah, she was inches away. And this very liberal, very, very liberal. She's got a great job, helps people, but drugs is the one thing she's like, no, like, shut off. So when she had this experience, she just came to me and said, the stuff you talk about, or the stuff you've been saying, it happened. Like DMT, X, Y, and Z, something was released and I saw everything. The light flashing, the X, Y, and Z. So it's a common constant that we all share. So that experience that I've put myself in and induced by taking something is what I believe is next and other, and it's energy. And I think it's flowing. So whatever, all things must fade out, all energy must transfer, but I don't believe in death to the point of blackout, gone.
That's it, yeah.
Ego, character, that's all.
Ego death. Yeah,
that's gone. That's Michael Markham will be no longer at some point.
Yeah.
But whatever the energy is that's in everything, in plants, in the world, in the whole, it is energy, it is carbon, it is matter, and all of that is just transferred.
Yeah, but
it
won't. But we can't understand that because we think it's going to feel a certain way, but we lose all touch of feeling, or we might lose all touch of feeling. So we can never comprehend that. That's kind of crazy.
And they say like, your most painful experiences are when you're born and when you die. But your body knows exactly what to do and how to handle it. Yeah. So our fear is that unknown. But in the moment, your body's going to... I need to know this. Your body's going to know exactly what to do and how to handle it. The unknown is the beauty of life to me.
Yeah.
The unknown is all we're here for.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And,
that's beautiful. No, you put that beautifully.
Thank you, man.
100%.
Are we on the right scope here?
I think we are. Yeah, definitely. What's your beliefs on Buddhism? The Buddhism way of so like the Buddhists believe that we can go into cyclic rebirth, which basically means being reborn into a new body through the energy being transferred, like you spoke about. So what we do in this lifetime. The good and the bad. If we do more bad, we're sexual misconduct, stealing, killing, these sort of things, we can get thrown into another a cyclic rebirth into maybe another human being that has a really bad lifetime, that really has to struggle because you've done bad things, or maybe like an animal, like a squirrel with one leg, something crazy like that. And that's because we've done bad things. But if we do good things and we be good and we act out of kindness, compassion, and altruism, then we can go on to the next dimension. We get okay, you've learned all your lessons in life. You've learned how to love, effect properly, how to help people. You've helped everybody. You've done this, you've done that. And then you get pushed on to the next dimension of energy, of peace. What's your thoughts on that kind of?
I love it. I love the principle. I love the idea. I think, again, it's mind created. It's a thought. It's an idea, and it's again touching on what we just said, like the unknown. I love all ideas, and then that's what somebody said the other day, like, because there's so much out there, so many possibilities, so many realms, so many ideas. I'm not closed off to anything. I've really got like this mind of like, I love stories. I've always loved it as a kid. I like to hear like the other ideas that tribes and constant people have created. So I'm a big advocate of just try your absolute best in this life. Just really make this situation as perfect as a situation could be crafted and created. But the unknown is something I'm so interested in. But also when I hear people talk of it as the absolute and the truth, where their idea is the only idea, that's where I switch off a little bit. That's where I struggle, because it's then like just going, this is all we know. This is what you need to know. This is how you need to act. You have to be a good person because of this. I think you have to be a good person because you want to be a good person.
Yeah,
and it's ingrained in us to be good people.
Well, I think the way the Buddhists put it is they kind of give you the choice. It's like it's their belief that they believe that, you know, if you do bad things, you'll get thrown into a cyclic rebirth. But like, they're not telling you to live good. They say these are what we think, because they even say that with religion, other religions, Christianity, Muslim, and all the others. The Buddhists say that you should take aspects of each one that resonates with you, and then use it to kind of to make your life better and make everybody else around you's life better as well. So.
I got that tattooed on me, which is all the religious symbols.
Never seen that before.
And the reason I got it was because one time I was enjoying myself again in my living room on my own. Enjoying
Not sexually.
myself. But I again had substance and was listening to songs that I'd not heard before, and this one, it's Nujabes they're called, and again that's tattooed on this side. It's a feather is their album. I've had the song's called Feather, and the album's inside the feather. And there was a line in it, and it said, "Every day I'm measuring the hurt within the golden rule." And I was like, golden rule? That sounds like a clever line. I need to research that. So I looked at golden rule, and what that is in every religion, in somewhere or another, there's one rule that rules them all, and it's said in every single one, and it is treat others as you wish to be treated.
So important.
That is
so important.
The golden rule.
So important.
And that's all I live by on a daily as best I can.
Yeah, and I think we should definitely delve into that in another podcast of treating people how you want to, because that's a topic in itself. That because definitely.
And so all the religious thought, all the spiritual thought, and again, it's beautiful ideologies and ideas and beliefs. But if we all try and live by that as best we can, I think make your own ideas up, make your own thoughts up, whatever makes you feel good about that, because we've got to like get to grips. We're gonna die. At one stage, we're gonna die, and you have to get an understanding of that. Again, the great film, Invention of Lying.
Yeah,
and it makes
Ricky
me
Gervais.
Cry every time, man.
Brilliant,
I'm thinking of it now. But when he sat there with his mum, and he's saying he's the first person that can lie, and it's just clicked with him, and he's like, no, you don't just go to nothingness. There is this extra life. There is this. But why prevent people from believing that? Why would you want to put people off like having acceptance in that? And if they found it in that line, you don't be a dick. Don't make them feel like they're wrong or stupid for thinking
That's a brilliant film to watch as well. Like, for everything we've just been speaking.
I think we've
about.
given some like good resources and material.
You've been on fire today, Mike. You've been on fire today, Mike.
Yeah, it's
right, mate. So I think we should close it up there.
100%.
And I think the quote of the day you actually said earlier.
There is life and there is death, and in between is a dance.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, my friends.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, guys. If you like what you've heard today and we've helped you out in any way, or we've opened your mind to new things, drop us a follow, drop us a like, share us to people that you think we may be able to, that may resonate with our message. And support the cause, and we'll support you. Thank you very much.
We're gonna keep doing our thing. Cheers, baby.